Do you want to know what the biggest travesty on last night's AEW Dynamite was? FTR said that Luchasaurus was nothing but a man in a mask. I'll have you know, FTR, the dinosaurs are facing all kind of problems in the modern day, and you should have more respect. So my man Luchasaurus, always know I am with you. And with that out of the way, welcome once again to another episode of Ups and Downs. My name is Simon Miller. You are watching WhatCulture Wrestling. And in case you don't know, it's all about this, the finger of power. It gives the good bits an up, and it gives the bad bits a down, and then that's it. It's not about opinions. This is fact. Not true at all. But as we are here, let's up those downs for AEW Dynamite here in December 2020. Long John Silver and Alex Ryan Reynolds are just great, aren't they? They have just latched on to this stuff they've been doing in BTE, and they have now transferred it across to Dynamite, and every time they're on your television screen, they are just some entertaining tamales. They look like kids at Christmas when they join Hangman Adam Page at the top of the ramp, dressed like cowboys, and Hangman couldn't have been more fed up. He looked at them like, oh great, we have to do this, because of course, they're about to have a 6-man tag team match. They were taking on Matt Hardy and Private Party, and one of my favorite things about AEW is that they do the little things that sometimes you may not even notice. For example, Hangman Adam Page was beating up Matt Hardy, and then he looked at Private Party, and for a brief second he thought, oh, I'm gonna punch you on the face, because that's what all wrestlers do when they're in 6-man tags. You go to the people on the apron and you give them a little bit of a smack. But because he wants to get across to the audience that he's a good guy, he thought better of it. And you didn't have to notice that. You didn't even have to clock it. But when I did, I'm like, man, I'm so happy I watch as intensely as I do. Outside of this, it was mostly Reynolds and Silver just being absolute goofs because they were desperate to make Hangman Adam Page proud. It really makes you feel warm and fuzzy in your tum-tum. There's also about 100 hot tags in this, which kind of defeats the object, but do not worry about it, because we had another story brewing here, which is Matt Hardy, who each and every week becomes a little bit more of an asshole. Reynolds had the match won at one point, but Hardy put a stop to that, and then he went and found Silver and just gave him a twist of fate on the outside. By the time Alex had got himself together and back in the ring, Private Party hit the gin and juice, and then Matt tagged himself in, and he took the pin, because of course he is Matt Hardy, and without Matt Hardy, professional wrestling wouldn't even exist today. But this was really good. I'm gonna have to imagine that we're continuing this slow build to where Hangman Adam Page actually does join the Dark Order, or at least I secretly hope so. And yeah, who the hell knows what's gonna happen with Matt Hardy and his apparent protege's Private Party? Something has definitely gone wrong there. Just a nice, easy opening to this week's Dynamite. Unfortunately, Chris Jericho and MJF just aren't getting along at all. They pretend that they are, but when you look deep into your eyes, you can see rage and you can see madness. Because the Inner Circle were backstage doing an interview where MJF was saying he is over the moon that the New York Times referenced his Dinner Debonair segment from a couple of months ago. But Chris Jericho, the champion, he was enraged about this because I was in it as well. Why is nobody talking about me? So MJF, in the most sarcastic way possible, like, you the man, Chris, you the best, you the GOAT, nobody better than Chris Jericho. The way he said it, though, was about as believable as Vince McMahon telling you he doesn't like individuals that are just big pieces of man meat. You're just not going to believe it, and you can just smell that sooner rather than later, these two are actually going to implode. I'm in it too. There's going to be bits of skin everywhere. Disgusting. We then had a video letting us know that Brandy and Cody Rhodes are gonna have a baby in 2021. And I will tell you this, these last 12 months have been pretty hard, right? They have been pretty crappy. But between things like this and Becky Lynch and Seth Rollins, and of course Renee Paquette and Jon Moxley, it just makes you feel all good inside because you like these people, you support them, you want to be their fans, and knowing that their personal life is going pretty good, well, I don't think that's such a bad thing at all. It's not. There's probably others I've forgotten as well, but it's just a good reminder that wrestling angles and all this other nonsense, it doesn't actually matter. It's all about real life. Honestly, I got a right kick out of this. That's why I'm giving it an up. Congratulations to them. It's then time for Cody's match against Angelico, and Justin Roberts even announced him as the dad-to-be, and I thought that was quite cute. And then we were getting Cody Rhodes versus Angelico, one of the things I never thought I'd see in 2020, but it was good. It started with some chain wrestling, which Cody, I assume, thought he'd get the better of, but Angelico's got all this stuff down, he's got all the moves, and Mr. Rhodes was really pissed off. Jack Evans was also super excited about this because he jumped on the apron, but Arn Anderson was having none of that. He grabbed this child and he threw him to the floor. I don't mean that as like a disrespectful thing to Jack Evans, but it really did look like a dad and his kid. The best bit is when Cody went for that drop-down punch that he does, and Angelico reversed it into this crazy octopus move. And do you know how Cody got out of it? Because he didn't have his arms, he basically like squirmed his way to the ropes and he bit it with his teeth. I was like, I don't think I've ever seen that before, even though I bet it's happened loads. And Angelico was basically bossing most of this too, which made my brain go, he's definitely going to lose this. And then around about 30 seconds later, he did lose. But Cody was really struggling to hit him with the crossroads, so instead he like reversed his other move and hit the Cody cutter. It was well scouted, as Jim Ross would say. 1, 2, 3, and you have your winner. So it was a really nice match, but of course you were sat there waiting for Team Taz to turn up, and as soon as this was said and done, out came Team Taz, and they were like, orange, orange, because they love that color. They pretended they were overjoyed for Cody's recent announcement, but clearly they didn't mean this at all. And Ricky Starks had a really good line. He's like, look, we're all talking about kids, but I don't remember anybody congratulating me and Brian Cage when we took you, Darby Allin, and we took you, Cody, and we turned you into our children. Like, really, that makes no sense, but somehow it came across at the best insult ever. They were so wound up, they decided, hey man, let's just head to the ring and beat up Cody Rhodes. And once again, you could just see what was about to happen, but the lights went out, and then the man himself was here. It's Sting! He did his whole Sting thing when he just stares at Team Taz and then revealed his baseball bat, so they didn't do anything stupid. And I have seen this talked about constantly on the internet, but I totally agree. Surely this has to lead to a blood and guts match between Team Sting and Team Taz, because that way Sting could get involved, but you're protecting him if that's what you need to do. And I think that would be absolutely faboo, especially because when you go back in history, Sting and what that match is based on, they have a long old history. The greatest thing though is that Sting still has this aura. I don't care that he's 61, that's all I get nowadays, saying if he's 61. Okay, fine. When you're 61, you're gonna be forced to retire. I'm gonna find you and give you your retirement papers, but he's just got this atmosphere around him, and as you can tell, I'm still getting very excited every single week. Good for me, I win. We then had an interview with Miro, and as you know, I love this guy. I think he's great. But when it comes to his new AEW character, there's just something missing for me. It's not clicking, and I regret doing that. It's annoying when people do it. I thought it was much better last week when he turned into Beast Miro and just beat everybody up, but here he's still mad at Orange Cassidy for two major reasons. L'Orange doesn't care about numbers, and he doesn't care about subscribers. Okay. He also told us that next week on AEW Dark he's going to take on Sonny Kiss, and that next week on Dynamite, finally we will get the announcement about when Kip Sabian's and Penelope Ford's wedding is going to be. I don't really like wrestling weddings, but I trust in AEW to come up with something different. Given that it feels like half my life since we heard about this, I'm glad it's finally going to happen. But really, just between you and me, don't we feel like we should have seen the Best Friends taking on Miro and Kip Sabian by now? It's been going on forever. And then Eddie Kingston, flipping Eddie Kingston. Let's not even waste any time. Bring it down. This is my machine to find out whether this week Eddie Kingston has worked out whether wrestling is a work or not. We put in all the details, blop, blop, blop. We give it a second, bang, there it is. No, he does not. And do you want to know why that is? Because when Eddie Kingston's in the ring and when Eddie Kingston is wrestling, it is damn real. Up. He just laid into all his enemies here, which unsurprisingly is pretty much everyone, but he focused on two specific names, Pac and Lance Archer. When he said Lance Archer, I was like, Eddie, what are you doing? He's gonna march out here and he's gonna throw you through the ceiling. As soon as Lance had heard this though, he came to the ring, because that's just what we do in wrestling, but he'd forgotten about the Butcher and the Blade, who are Eddie Kingston's best friend, and they all got in there and they started to beat him up. Until the Lucha Brothers came out to make the save. Skewing in from the audience too was Pac, who managed to get in there so fast, it was a little bit like a blur, and then there was a fallout between Pac and Lance Archer as they sort of fought off the bad guys, and once again I was like, oh no, the poor Ruth. Because basically, Lance was going to give Eddie Kingston a chokeslam, but Pac was so desperate to kick him, he just did, but that meant Eddie went out of Lance's grip, and the Murder Hawk was not pleased about that. They had a little bit of a stare down, which was a hilarious visual because Lance Archer is about 32 foot tall and Pac is not, but when all is said and done, they did calm down, but I am intrigued to see what's going to happen here. Like, we know who hates who, but I also think Lance Archer hates everyone. It ticked my boxes. Dustin Rhodes was then reacting to the Dark Order. He reminded us all that Seven was a terrible gimmick and he's never going to get back to it, but also that now he is going to go through each and every single member until he kills them off for good. I was like, oh man, that's a really good story. What should happen is that he should be successful, but then Brody Lee returns. Brody Lee absolutely ruins Dustin Rhodes, forcing him to join the group. So there you go, AEW. If you'd like to make that happen, you will make this bald asshole very pleased. It was then time for our nuts 14-man tag team matchup, which unfortunately got reduced to 12 because Wardlow, as we were told, has some personal problems. Now, I obviously have no idea what that is, but I just hope he's doing okay. I like Wardlow, he's great. Either way, it was still the rest of the Inner Circle taking on Top Flight, taking on the Best Friends, taking on Varsity Blondes, and honestly, what else did you expect from this carnage and madness from the off up? Orange Cassidy was on commentary, which is about as useful as me giving you hair advice, and everything that was going on here. I mean, the amount of stories, the amount of subplots. You had Jericho being surprised about how talented Brian Pillman Jr. was, and back in the day, of course, Brian Pillman Sr. and Jericho used to go at it. Griff Garrison was running wild. Darius from Top Flight was going at it with Sammy Guevara, and they were flying around the place. And you even had a little bit of a callback to the Best Friends and Santana and Ortiz. Do not forget Sue and her van. It all built to a huge best friend hug in the middle of the ring, but it annoyed the Inner Circle so much they got back in control until Darius from Top Flight got the hot tag. He went absolutely ballistic, including hitting Sammy Guevara with a Spanish fly from the top rope. I almost felt like I should have paused here because I was so damn exhausted. Sadly, Jericho has ever had a plan, and it came in the form of a bat, because he took that and he twonked Griff Garrison right in the head, which allowed Jake Hager to hit the weirdest looking F10 or F5 that I've ever seen in my life. Now, obviously, this was a shot at Wardlow, but maybe they should just go back to staring at each other. And just to rub salt into the wound, Jake Hager tagged in MJF, who was desperate for it, allowing Maxwell to get the 1, 2, 3. I thought that was quite a nice little ending to this match, because there's been such dissension in the Inner Circle, but this was Jake Hager, the big guy, tagging in MJF, the new guy, to prove they're on the same page, even though they're clearly not. This was all kinds of fun though, and afterwards they even continued to fight, and the team that was left standing tall was Top Flight, and that is AEW telling you, you should keep your eyes on these two. We are probably gonna do something with them. Thunder Rosa interview next, and she thinks that Britt Baker is an idiot, and if it wasn't for her, she would still be the NWA Women's Champion. And when you sit down and think about it, that's 100% true. She then did this absolutely crazy laugh, which got even better because Rebel just walked in the picture, and she was like, yeah man, your laugh is really weird, when Britt Baker, of course, popped up from nowhere, and she started to beat up Thunder Rosa, including getting some water and washing off her face paint. And honestly, no joke, that is more annoying than you would think. I did my makeup last week to look like Sting, and it took forever. If somebody had knocked on my door and gone psh, and thrown water in my face, one, I'd be like, what was that sound effect? Water doesn't sound like that. But two, I would be really sad. Again, the time you have to give up. This is actually one of the most relatable storylines to me in 2020. I also enjoyed the fact that we're doing more story beats with the women. Please, AEW, give me more of this. Up. Following this was SCU versus the Acclaimed, and you really gotta hand it to AEW. They are doing everything in their power to get as many new people over as possible. In fact, if you want to be overly critical, you could say that it's too many, and maybe it is. But there's something about the Acclaimed, and I don't know what it is, and I'm giving it up. Now I know the only eyebrow-raising thing here is that Max Caster comes out and he raps on his way to the ring while insulting his opponents, so straight away, if you're a wrestling fan of any tenure, you go, well, that's not like John Cena. But honestly, come on now, you can't just never do the same gimmick again just because somebody else did it. The key is to make it your own, and I've already think he's shown here he has the capability to do that. I don't know what it was, I was just really involved. He was also quite funny too, as was Kazarian, where he responded in kind. So I also thought that I should try and describe this match to you in the form of a rap. All right, so bear with me. But SCU and the Acclaimed fighting in the ring. I'm already regretting doing this. At least I didn't sing. Forget that though, it doesn't matter. And all you need to know is that the Acclaimed actually won right here. They put on quite the show. I'm an embarrassment. Do you know how they got that victory though? Those cheating mother hubbards, they used their boombox like it was 1987. They cracked Christopher Daniels right in the head, which allowed them to score the 1, 2, 3. So they won, but there's an excuse if SCU fancy having one. I honestly thought this was very well put together. Afterwards, Caster went back to his rap and he looked at the Young Bucks who were in the crowd and he said to them, we want to have a tag team title match against you next week on Dynamite. And I was properly into that. Honestly, execution's everything, pow, 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 and they executed this as well as they possibly could. So it was just shining a light on new people, and then AEW doubled down on that because we cut to the back we cut to an interview with Top Flight, and just to cut a long story short, they went, do you know what we want more than anything? PlayStation 5 or Cyberpunk that actually works, but also we want to take on MJF and Chris Jericho in a tag team match, and that is actually going to happen. Do you know what? Top Flight can actually win, because we already know that Maxwell and a champion aren't getting on. Their egos can clash, it can open the door, Top Flight can take advantage, and that just plays off everything we've seen over the last few weeks. Right, it was then Ivelisse and Diamante taking on the team of Serena Deeb and Big Swole, and it was fine. They're all very, very talented, and they are all very good wrestlers. But I don't know, man, there was just something about this that didn't really come together. It also felt a little bit out of nowhere, because it's based on the fact of that segment we had last week, and I thought that they were all working together there, but clearly I watched it wrong, and I did just feel myself check out a little bit, simply because the story hasn't really been driven into my brain. So this is no disrespect to anybody in it, but yeah, as a viewer, I was just a bit like, well, there's not much behind this, and really, I would have preferred to have seen what was next between Shida, the AEW Women's Champion, and Abaddon, a character that I do feel like I've invested in. So unfortunately, down. And we did take some step forwards with this, because after everything we saw last week, eventually Big Swole was able to get the submission win when she applied this crazy Texas cloverleaf to Diamante, and then of course Nyla Rose was in here. She's the beast, she's the monster, and she beat everybody up. Ivelisse and Diamante then joined her until Red Velvet came right down to make the save, and she had a steel chair. So yeah, I can see all the dots connecting. I just really don't get where it's going. This whole save after the match thing is also a spot that AEW does do a lot, and this one felt like one too many. But look, let's all calm down. Let's see where it's gonna go. But I was also baffled that Jade Cargill wasn't involved here. It really did feel like she should have been involved. And then, man, we had so many segments. We had the Best Friends and Orange Cassidy telling Miro and Kip Sabian that they'll be at the wedding announcement next week. Then we had a Jurassic Express video that we talked about earlier. That's when FTR came out and said, man, we don't believe in dinosaurs, and that broke my life. And then we found out next week, Chris Jericho is going to be doing color commentary on AEW Dynamite. Main event time then, though. Up. It was Kenny Omega versus Joey Janela in a no DQ match, and I think what sums this up best is what happened in the first 5 seconds. Because as Kenny was making his way to the ring, Joey just got a trash can and he threw it right in his head. I laughed, so I was happy. This got even better because Don Callis wanted to be on commentary to call this, because of course he's Kenny Omega's best friend, so he told Tony Schiavone to get out of his way. And honestly, in the most believable response I think I've ever heard in a pro wrestling show, Tony Schiavone just went, kiss my ass, and I think he may have actually meant it. Schiavone is just on fire right now. He's so consistently entertaining and he's so consistently good, and he followed that up instantly when he also said, look, I'm really happy that Impact's viewers went from 1 to 6. Round of applause for Tony Schiavone. Callis was great too, as he just grabbed a microphone and did live announcing over the PA, and then back in the ring, geez, my knees, we had more with this trash can. As Don Callis called it, we had a disgusting cookie sheet. Kenny Omega was just killing Joey Janela, and it was legal because it was in a wrestling ring. Or at least that was, until he went for the one-winged angel and Janela was able to reverse it into a Hurricane Rana. He then beat up the world champion for a while, went on the outside, laid him on a table, climbed up to the top rope, and then just dove through it. I mean, this was absolutely nuts. And yet, unfortunately, when we did get back in the ring, Kenny Omega V-triggered him a few times, did hit the one-winged angel. No one kicks out of that. 1, 2, 3. Just a really entertaining 5 minutes or so. This is AEW, however, so we weren't going to end there. We have to build up to what's going to happen in future shows. So as soon as we were done, out came the Death Triangle, and Pac had a little bit of a microphone. Because he made the very good point that if we go back to the World Title Tournament, Phoenix had to be taken out of that. So even though Kenny Omega is standing up here going, I'm the champion, he's really not, until he's able to defeat Rey Fenix. Callis laughed this off because wrestlers don't make matches, and that has to be one of the biggest digs I've heard in a while. But as it turns out, Pac is a smart man. He'd gone to Tony Khan. Tony Khan had signed this off, and in 2 weeks, can you believe it, we are going to get a world title match between Kenny Omega and Phoenix. You just know that is going to be unreal. Omega then went nuts as the show went off air, and I think we can all say that this character, known as the arsehole Kenny Omega, is just getting better each and every week. Which is also kind of the same for Dynamite, although I will say this week's didn't feel as exciting as the last couple, but you can't hit a home run every time. Everybody goes through peaks and troughs. It was still enjoyable enough. I was still sports entertainment all was said and done. Can't say that, but you know what I mean. I'm giving it up. Now don't forget to leave a comment below. Get in there and write and rave and say whatever you want. Like the video, share the video, hit the subscribe button. It's calling to you. We also have a website, WhatCulture.com. We also have a Twitter. Of course, it's 2020 at WhatCulture WWE. And we have a YouTube channel I'm hoping you've realized that. You're on it right now. Watch some more videos. My name is Simon from WhatCulture, the king of ups and downs. Maybe, probably more like some kind of dirty pauper that you just want to kick mud on. Either way, I'm happy. See you soon.